Hey guys, thanks for clicking. I appreciate that. So today we are going to be working on our new John Deere, the 2038R, and we're going to be adding some rear hydraulics and a front hydraulics. Or there's 100 different ways to name this. I am not a tractor professional, but the idea of this tractor for us was we're a small landscape company. So we wanted a small tractor, but not too small. But we wanted something with a big punch, like some power. And that's why we ended up with the 2 Series tractor with the turbocharged 38 horsepower engine, because we could run different implements. That's what we're most interested in. So we do not own a backhoe, not an excavator, just a landscaper. I don't think we need the backhoe. But anyway, so we want to add some rear hydraulics so we can run different implements. But we also want to run a grapple, so we need the third function. Okay, so I'm going to show you what I bought. I'm going to show you how we install it, and I'm going to hope to heck it works. All right. So here is our new to us anyway. It's only a couple years old. I think it's a 2020 2038R. And like I said, this does not have a front function. So now they have different options. They have what they call a diverter, which you're taking the power from one of these functions down here and you're splitting it. So maybe say like your curl bucket, you can take that, you can use a diverter, you can split it. That's fine, but then that doesn't give you any rear hydraulics. So this model tractor comes with what they call a power beyond. That just means a power, you're taking hydraulic power from somewhere. Now, this is the setup that my tractor has. It has just what they call a power beyond, and this is basically for your backhoe. Okay, you got your high pressure, your tank, your loop. Like I said, I do not have rear function hydraulics on this. There would be a couple of extra levers that look like that over here. We don't have them, so we're going to add them. I bought the Summit kit. This is for 3 extra rear functioning hydraulics, and this will run the third option to the front. So this is the kit. I have all the hoses over here. I have the tractor here, so we're going to put it all together and we're going to figure out how to mount it on this, and we're going to get our power. As you can see, I already started a little bit. We're going to take our power right from the fuse block and we're going to go. So let me get started and we'll show you in a few. So here we go. So just to be clear, this is what they call a rear third function kit for the front. Let me get closer. With rear remotes. So you're adding hydraulics all the way around. Here's the instructions. Anyway, we start with the block over here. This is the hydraulic block. These are the 100 fittings that they give you. And first thing we do is we put this hydraulic block together. We have the mounting brackets, and then we have the rest of the kit over here. Like I said, this is the Summit kit, and we're gonna see how it goes. First things first, like I said, we're gonna put this together, make it look like it does in the picture, and we'll go from there. Okay, so first part is we're gonna put these plugs in. So now these fittings all have O-rings. I don't know if you can see that, hopefully you can. Anyway, so you pop these little caps off. They have O-rings in there, so you don't use any tape or anything like that. It says China right on it, nice. And you just use a little hydraulic fluid on these. No Teflon tape, like I said, or anything. So I have my little hydraulic fluid dipper here. I know, because anytime we're working on hydraulics, what's hydraulics' biggest enemy? The biggest enemy is dirt or things that get in the way. So I really should have lint-free towels. I don't have them, so we're just gonna be careful. These are clean towels. Now, again, this block is aluminum. All of this stuff is, you got metal stuff going into aluminum. So there is a torque specification on here. I think it's like 2 something, I don't know. It's in the instructions, but whenever you're working on it, just be careful, because you can strip it out real easily. You strip the stuff out, you're gonna stop the whole job, you're gonna have headaches. don't over tighten. You can always re-tighten something later if it's leaking. Obviously, once you put everything together, you're going to inspect it to see if it's all good. So my best is you give it a little tighten to the point where it feels snug, and then you give it about a half turn, and then, you know, do it the right way. If you want, use your torque wrench. I've never been really good at that kind of stuff, but that's how I'm doing it. So I snug them in, give it a little half turn, and we're good to go with that. Okay, we're gonna go through, we're gonna put the rest of these fittings into the block the way they're supposed to go. I don't want to bore you with that, so we'll stop. Now we're installing the quick couplers on here. They are a little offset when you put in these different, but when you're tightening these up, they are a little tiny bit awkward because you don't want to hit one with the other, and they're kind of close next to each other. So you just got to be a little creative with the wrench, get a right angle on it, and then snug them up. Be really careful when you're tightening it. You don't hit the other one while you're putting pressure on it, because you don't want to break it. So that's how that goes. You just want to get it snug enough to make sure the rubber O-ring seal is tight. And I already put a little hydraulic fluid on all of these, so it keeps the seal wet. And I think it's kind of just like, take your time and be really careful. Like I said, when you go to tighten and you're pushing down, make sure you're not hitting the other fitting, because you can very easily do that. Okay, that's pretty good. It's starting to look like it's supposed to. Okay, so now the instructions tell you to mount this to the ROPS bar and then mount your 4 solenoids on here. It's pretty heavy altogether, maybe that's why they do it, I don't know. I'm going to mount the solenoids to the block here on the bench because it just feels a little bit more comfortable for me. But there are a couple little things you need to know. All right, let's see if I can get this to the camera. So there's a P on one side of the solenoid, it's BTA on the other side. So when you take this little cover, there's a cover here, and you put it on here. I'm gonna bring this over because it's easier than moving the camera. So anyway, when you come over here, you got your 4 bolt holes, and then there's this little port here, see it? That's where your P needs to go, towards that little port on each one. So make sure you get that right. And then when you take the cover, I'm going to try and do it here on the camera. When you take this cover off, there are 4 O-rings underneath this cover, and that's what's protecting. That's why it's on there. Let's see, maybe this will pop this little. There it goes. Woo. One way to do it. So you're gonna pop those out. I use the screw. Seems to work quite well. And then as you can see, there's 4 O-rings in there, and that's why that little cover is on there. So make sure you take this cover off, because if you put it on without, it's just not gonna work out. So anyway, take your cover off. Make sure your O-rings are in there. Can't hurt to put a little bit of hydraulic oil on there. And then when you put it on, like I said, make sure your P goes towards that hole.
Like I said, you screw it into aluminum. Really careful. Make sure your threads are 100% right. Don't make that mistake of stripping out any of this stuff, because it won't be good. That. Now we're going to put the other 4, 3 on here.
Okay, so there you have it, folks. This is quite a contraption, I'll tell you that. It probably weighs 25, 30 pounds maybe. I don't know, it's pretty heavy. Probably 30 pounds or whatever. So that, like I said, that's probably why they asked you to bolt these on after it's already on the ROPS. But to me, it's just a little easier on the bench. My helper will be here in a little bit, and we'll be able to hold it on there without anything. So, like I said, make sure your the P is toward the pinhole and the thing, and you put that in right. And then make sure all of your bolts are crisscross, evenly torqued. I think it says in the instructions, I think it's like 2 pounds or something like that. And then, you know, go through and check. Make sure you take these little caps off. Make sure you have 4. Count them if you're not sure. Make sure they're off because, like I said, that would block things. And make sure that those 4 O-rings on each one are perfectly in there. So once you have that set on there and you have everything secure, everything tightened, and the bracket tightened, then you can go to the next step. All right. Okay, so here's where we are. We've installed this system, and as you can see, it's a pretty big, intimidating system. We went, because if you're going to do it, I figure, you know, have all of the valves that you might need in the future. Now, they suggest that you install it on the side closest to the hydraulics, and there's pros and cons to that because the switch to control those solenoids is going to be over here, and the mounting bracket that they give you connects to the mounting bracket for that solenoid. So in other words, there's not another piece to put it on this side. I'm not going to mount it that way. I'll show you how I mount it. It's going to be a little bit different. So if you do want to use the original mounting bracket for that whole block, you put it on this side. The reason I'm putting it on this side, and I've seen other people also, is because when you're on the machine, you're technically going to be looking over your right shoulder because all of your hydraulic controls are on the right side of the tractor. So if you're looking over your right shoulder, you don't want to have that big block, plus there's going to be hoses off of it, so it's just going to distract your view. So that's why I put it on that side, and that's why the controls will be over here. So anyway, we'll get more into it as it's all completed, but we'll get to the next step. So now, we've got our valve on there, so now we're going to start hooking up the electronics. They give you a new handle that goes on your joystick here, so you take the old one off. They give you 3 different size like fittings to go in here, so you have to decide, are you just going to go over that, or are you going to go over the fat part of the controller? I'm making that decision now. You take these little sleeves out. I think it might be stronger if we go over the fatter part. I'm not sure. It fits pretty nice on the small part. I guess we can always change it later. So we'll probably just put it over the threads for now. So basically, you leave your fitting in there, and then you're going to bring this down like that, and this is going to become your new joystick. Then we'll run our wires down there. So I'm going to tighten that up, and we'll go to the next step in a minute. Okay, so we're skipping steps here a little bit because we had to do few things because we had a grapple delivery right in the middle. We possibly might have needed our tractor for that, but we worked it out. So as I explained earlier in the video, they give you these brackets, these big heavy brackets that hold the hydraulic block to the ROPS bar. Now we mounted the hydraulic block to the left side of the tractor, and the way it's set up is to mount it to the right side of the tractor, because then this bar connects to the bracket on the ROPS bar. So your hydraulic is here, and then you have these heavy, crazy heavy 1/8-inch steel things that are gonna hold your controls for your 3 other positions. So instead of talking, it would go like this. And connect to that. It would go here, and then your buttons would be here, and you can adjust them. I think it's a little unnecessary to use this big heavy thing for 3 little buttons that you're not going to use that frequently. So we're going to do it my way today. What I've done instead is this little piece pops out of our console here. So what we've done is we've taken the little box apart and we're gonna mount it right here next to these buttons because we don't have anything else mounted here. So this will go, and then the drill's on top, but this is gonna go here like this, and our buttons will be mounted right here by our elbow. So I think that plan's gonna work out good. That's how we're gonna do it, and that's what we're doing now. So we just cut this plastic out. We reinforced it with the old pop out, and then we'll mount the box to that. That's our plan. So we skipped a few steps here, but I will go back in the end and I will explain everything in detail. So we have our unit mounted here, okay? We have our, so like I said, on this model tractor, it comes with a Power Beyond for your backhoe in a loop. This is what they call the loop. So this loop would go to the pressure. All right, it does not have rear remotes. That's why we added the rear remotes. So very important is that you get your P for your high pressure line going into the block that says P. I don't know if I can get to the thing, but you make sure it goes to the one that says P, pressure to pressure, and then the other one is tank, and that one goes to your loop. You don't use this one for this application. And then the other two, this is for your front third function. It doesn't have a quick connect, it has hard lines, and those hard lines go from here down under the tractor to the mid spot where it will hook to the lines from the front loader. And this solenoid here will hook to the grapple because these will hook to this. That's how that works. And the button on our arm here will control that third function. And the other three will get controlled from this box. So getting the lines from the back of the tractor to the mid is really not that difficult. You can get under there, there's some good spots. Difficult things are finding a good spot to mount your mid thing. The directions are very limited in the pictures that they give you on there. They pretty much suck. Sorry, Summit, but the pictures on that fail. They say mount it to the frame here, but you know, you gotta find a good spot where you're not in the way or path of the wheel. You don't want to be too low because of the ground clearance. These flexible hoses are pretty tough and they're not that flexible, so you don't want to force anything and bend any of these lines. So now we hooked up our front clip. This is where your like grapple will, well, we take the bucket off, your grapple will in there. So now we have to put a line from these. We'll follow up the arm, and we're gonna go to our mid mount. So that's where we are now. Sorry about the shitty video. We'll be right back. So we mounted these here. The straps were too short. I had to get my own straps because I don't know why the ones they gave us were just too short. They wouldn't reach around. Then we got the bracket on there. I'll show you the back side of that. So that's how that mounting bracket goes to the arm. Got your two hydraulic hoses there. And then, like I said, we just kind of run the hoses as close as we can to the other hoses. I didn't tie down anything yet or fasten anything yet because we're going to make sure that it's fully operational and that we have no problems. Now, as far as the mid mounting, this is the alternative that I came up with. It's a little closer to the wheel than I like, but so is the oil filter, as you can see. So there's a lot of vulnerable spots here. But it happens to work really nice because these two lines here, which are right by your foot pedals, they come from under the floor from the back. They go up over here and they hook right into those lines, nice and neat like. So it's a matter of playing games and just kind of finding a spot. Like these hoses we can tuck in here. We can tuck these nice and neat with that, some wire ties. so you won't even actually see them from the outside of the tractor. So you can see them now. So I think that's really going to come out good. I'm happy with that. This is going to be another project. So we mounted our arm on here. I couldn't find a way to get the wires hidden at the moment. I will go back once everything is working properly. Back here, it's like a crazy bit of a mess, but again, I'm gonna make sure everything's working properly before we get crazy hiding and wire tying everything up. So the next and last thing is we tied, let me see, all the power is in here. I ran my own power wire to here. I went down underneath here. You can see the red power wire, and it goes to the other side, which I will go around. Some people do a fuse block over to that side. I didn't feel I needed it because the two electric controls, the one that's on the handle and the one that's the 3 buttons, I link those together. And they tell you to go to the battery. So here's my wire coming through on the other side. They give you this cool little fusible like kind of addition thing. So I just went in where there was constant power, and we have my 2 10-amp fuses. And then I'm just gonna hook this wire to that. So that should solve the power situation. And that's where we're at. Okay, so we wanna test out our hydraulics, but we can't do that until we get the right fittings, which we don't have, so I guess that's going to be a ride to Tractor Supply so we can get the right ones that will fit to those fittings. I don't know a whole lot about fittings, but I know they don't fit. So that's one for the sketchy video. I was learning as I was doing this. I have never installed any of these types of things on this type of machine, so it took me a little bit longer than the estimated hour and a half that they say estimated. Let me go over a quick review. I think I said in the beginning of the video, the reason we did this is because we want to run a lot of different implements. And if we're going to do the hydraulics, let's do it all at once. So showed you the system, showed you how it went together. Here's my installation, and here's how it all went. We'll start from the back of the tractor. So the main unit is here. There's a possibility I could have got it to come down lower, but I figure keeping that away from any of the moving parts, because this link will come up pretty high, was better here. And it's not over my right shoulder, like I said, because when you're on the machine, you're 9 out of 10 times you're gonna be looking over your right shoulder. And I wanted this clear view of path here so I could see. So that's why I mounted over here. I did the 3 extra ports because we're gonna add the first thing we're gonna add in the back is a top link. So we can control that from right there. We can tilt our options. And then that leaves us 2 other open ports. So if we want to do a flail mower with a thing or a wood chipper or anything else, we have everything that we need now, and we have easy access to control it. So the Power Beyond unit, this is how I ended up doing this is your loop link that's normally on these John Deeres. So you're just basically taking from the loop, which goes in and then comes back out loop to loop. So that's how that goes. It's pretty much out of your way. We don't have a backhoe, but if we did, it's still easily accessible if we needed to. The wiring from everything, I just tucked all into here, and I'll flip the seat up so you can see. The wires went right up the ROPS bar there. We tucked them in nice. Black wire ties would have been nicer, but I didn't have any more. So we ran all our wires up here. Because we had 2 different electronic pieces, I probably could have stuffed these wires underneath this, but I think it looks pretty good like this. I put the covers on. I'm happy with it, and it's my tractor, so that's all that really matters, right? We put our new control on here, so we have control for our grapple. So this is the 3rd function for the front. So anything that you're gonna run off of the front is just gonna run off of these 2 buttons. So the grapple would be, open, close, pretty simple. And the rest of the joystick works just the way it did before. Let me put the seat back down here. So that's all tidied up. Like I said, I put that. Here's the wire for that. I just did some wire ties on there. It suits the purpose. It works fine. I showed you earlier, I took the power from the fuse box, I ran it across, I ran it down underneath and came back up the fender, which is right here. So the only exposed part to the wire is actually that 1 inch right there. I don't think it's gonna be a problem. Maybe you can find a better route for it, but it seemed to suit the purpose. The only situation that we had to customize something, let me grab it. So on this John Deere, this cover goes here and there's 2 bolts that hold it on. So you bring the camera over. This is where we ended up mounting the mid section. So to one of those bolts that goes to here, we ended up putting it, and it comes out perfect because it gives us clearance from the wheel, and it's up out of the way, and there's no crazy bend on the hydraulic lines because we do run one of the sets of hydraulics come from that back unit. So they go underneath the frame. You just find a way to route them where they're not in the way. And here's your connection. So we're gonna go and we're gonna get a longer bolt right there and put it there. I don't know, maybe you've done this before and maybe you know a better, because the instructions from Summit say to bolt it to the frame down here, and just putting this thing down over here in the area of where the wheel is, I wasn't happy with it. So this is what works for us. Maybe that'll work for you. Maybe you have a better idea. If you do, please mention it in the comments, because I did struggle with finding somewhere that I was happy with that connection. Okay, now from that connection, these are the hoses that run along the loader. The hoses that will stay on the loader, they come right up here along the same exact lines as the hoses that are on there. We'll get some black wire ties to make it look prettier, but I just followed the line all the way down. The other ones, there's this little mount that goes onto your loader arm. I was not impressed with the ties that they had given you, the clamps. So we had gotten other ones, but it's pretty sturdy. It doesn't move. So this will stay here, and then this will be your quick connects for your grapple. We did get our Summit grapple, which I'll do a separate review on the grapple as we use it a little bit more. And there was a couple of little pros and cons to that, but here's your hookup for that. Everything worked out perfect. The Summit kit was really good. It had pretty much every part that you needed with the exception of that 1 screw that we have to find. And that's about it. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching my video. I really hope it helps you. If you have any questions, feel free, because I did just figure all of this out on my own and it works wonderful. And now we can run a grapple or any other thing that we want, or any other rear hydraulic on there. And yeah, thanks again for watching. Peace, guys.